fond memories of my first video game. I was 4 or 5 at the time, and we had just moved into a new house after my younger sister had been born. Gosh, imagine being able to do that today. Anyway, at one point I walked into the garage and I saw my brother sitting on a trunk. He had his Super Nintendo hooked up to a small CRT TV, and on that screen was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4: Turtles in Time. I don't remember exactly when and what happened, but before long I was sitting down with him and we started playing together, and I just fell in love with the game. And, well, I mean, you can see behind me. It's been a lifelong love affair. But I have a lot of nostalgia for this one in particular, right? Anyway, let's talk a little bit about it, huh? That sound brings back a lot of pleasant memories. So, Turtles in Time is a side-scrolling beat-em-up made by Konami and ported from arcades to the Super Nintendo in 1992. You get to choose from all 4 of the Turtles: Leo with his katanas, Donnie with his bow staff, Mikey with his nunchucks, and Raph with his sai. Raph hits the hardest and moves the fastest of the 4, but as a trade-off he doesn't have the range that Donnie or Leo do. And Mikey... well, honestly, I usually only ever played as Raph or Donnie, so I have no idea. As an aside, have you ever had a chance to hold a katana? I know Leo's swords are shorter and straighter than a katana, but the same idea applies. Those things are heavy. Like, I'm barely holding this. The plot of Turtles in Time is bare bones, but this was always kind of a thing for this era. Unless a game was an RPG or an adventure, the story was usually threadbare. But for action games like Turtles in Time, you didn't need something deep or moving. Instead, Krang steals the Statue of Liberty in the middle of April delivering a news report, and Shredder hijacks the airwaves to laugh at the Turtles. This laugh is so good, and I don't know why. Anyway, the Turtles set out to stop Shredder and the Foot Clan. As with any good beat-em-up, each stage is littered with baddies to fight through prior to reaching the boss. Beyond their damage output and speed, each turtle controls the same. You can attack, jump, and run. Depending on whether or not you have the run control set to automatic, the turtles will start running after moving in a direction for a short time. Otherwise, you just have to double tap the direction you want to run in. Now, most games in this genre would have you pick up meat or something filling to recover your health. Turtles in Time remains true to the source material and uses pizza. Pizza time! This game knows what it's about, and it is all the better for it. Once you reach the end of the stage music fades out, the boss music kicks in, and the boss appears. Since Turtles in Time uses an existing franchise, you'll be going against a lot of familiar faces. Dr. Baxter Stockman, Metalhead, the Rat King, even Toka and Razor make an appearance.
Babies! They're babies!
Once you do finally reach Shredder, the typical boss fight approach won't work. See, Shredder spends the whole fight in the foreground, and you can't hit him directly. So what do you have to do instead? Well, if you get close enough to a ninja after hitting them, you'll either swing them over your head a few times, eliminating any nearby ninjas, or you'll throw them into the foreground. Figures that Shredder gets undone by his own troops. After you've thrown enough ninjas at Shredder, his machine breaks down and he escapes into the monitor in the background, monologues about how tired he is of you, and then banishes you to a time warp. Shredder clearly means business when he does this. You start all the way back in prehistory after he escapes. And can I point out that these are the 3rd most stern-looking pterodactyls I've ever seen? From here it's more of the same, but with some new enemies like the Stone Warriors and the Foot Clan showing up in new ways. In this case, they ride dinosaurs bareback or get carried by equally stern-looking blue pterodactyls. You fight another iconic antagonist from the series, get warped to the next point in time, and rinse and repeat until you reach Neon Knight Riders in 2020 AD. Boy. Konami sure was optimistic about 2020, weren't they? This stage is one of the 2 bonus stages in the game, the other being Stage 3. In these stages, you have to fend off ninjas, maneuver around obstacles while collecting pizza in yellow question mark containers, the intent of which I assume is to help them stand out more than the normal pizza box would, and then fight off pizza monsters or ninjas in personal helicopters respectively. At the end, you get scored based on the total you did for each of these 3 items, which is immediately added to your total, and then you fight the boss. Krang finally shows up again, though this time his exosuit is much smaller than at the beginning of the game. I've always wondered why the scale changes so drastically between the first stage and here, but I guess he just has multiple exosuits? I don't know. I'm not exactly a die-hard Ninja Turtles fan.
On that note, what do you call members of the Foot Clan? Are they foot soldiers? Are they foot ninjas? Seriously, I need to know this.
Anyway, Krang escapes after you destroy his exosuit, and you enter the final stage of the Time Warp.
Starbase, where no turtle has gone before.
I really wish it didn't cut out like that. Just half a second more and we would have been golden, Konami! Honestly, it works fine. I'm just nitpicking. This level is awesome. The music is intense and fast-paced, and it just makes you want to go. Honestly, this is the music I hear in my head whenever we get really busy at work. Well, this or the music from the Kevin stages in Overcooked 2. Either way, everything just feels good. You have robots dropping from the ceiling, ninjas beaming in like Star Trek, and you're in space! Space! I know a lot of games have done this kind of thing since then, notably Wolfenstein: The New Order sending you to the moon. But for some reason, it always feels really cool when a game suddenly takes you into space. In fact, this stage made me remember something else I really like about this game. You can deflect things if you hit them at the right time. Throwing stars, manhole cover lids, even these bouncing wrecking ball things in Starbase. Just not the barrels on the train. Once you reach the end of the stage, Krang comes back, and this is probably the most annoying fight in the game. Krang will move around erratically before warping out and then back in to either fire bubbles, drop a few robots, or try to crush you before he warps again. I can't really fault the devs for this. From what little I know of Krang, this does make sense for him to do, but I always have a really hard time trying to line up my jump attacks, so it just kind of feels like a time waster more than a challenging fight. Eventually, Krang drops and disappears in an explosion, and the turtles realize the only way home is through the portal opened in the screen in the background. They make it in before the portal closes, and they're taken right to the Technodrome for a rematch with Shredder. And this is the last fight of the game. It's appropriately intense, and Shredder will dart around the field using one of 3 attacks depending on his aura. Red for a trail of fire on the ground, blue for an ice ray launched into the air in front of him, and green for what looks like a glob of ooze that turns you into a baby and takes away a life if it hits you. There's a brief period of time during and after each of these attacks where you can hit Shredder before he runs off and starts again. Once you do finally manage to beat Shredder, that's game! Or is it? This was something else fairly common years ago. It wasn't unusual for developers to make you beat the game on the hardest difficulty to see the credits or the full ending. And in this case, the higher difficulties don't change too much about the game. New enemy configuration so you'll have different ninjas in the fight with Shredder and the enemies move a little faster, but that's about it. Or it would be, but Shredder also gets much faster on hard. I showed you footage from my easy run. This is how he moves on hard. Yeah, he does not mess around on hard mode. Be prepared to get at least one game over. Hard mode really does live up to its name. Fortunately, you have continues based on your chosen difficulty, and you can adjust how many lives you start with, up to 7. If you play like I do, you'll probably need those. But if you can get through the game and beat Shredder on the highest difficulty, you get to see the ending. The turtles return the Statue of Liberty, and it's time to party from there. You get the credits, and then everyone in the game shows up for the cast roll. You can get your in-game time at the end.
Whenever I play a game from my youth, I always come back to it with a question of, is this still good? Was it ever good? Does it hold up? And honestly, in this case, I have to say yes. Turtles in Time holds up incredibly well. It's still fun, it's still a good challenge, and the sprite work and sound design are fantastic. So, honestly, I think I have to give this my honest recommendation, and in doing so, I have to provide it my seal of approval. Right, ain't inside.
It's very much an arcade game from the early 90s, but it's a lot more forgiving than other games of the time like Paperboy or the arcade port of Gradius 3. And it feels just as good to play today as I remember it being. There's personality, charm, and you can definitely tell a lot of love went into making it. The game also has a time trial mode as well as a versus mode, but I've never really touched either of these, so I can't accurately or fairly discuss them here. That said, if you have a working Super Nintendo or a Retron and can find a copy of Turtles in Time, it's well worth picking up. Apparently Ubisoft remade it in 3D under the title of Turtles in Time Reshelled in 2009 for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, but it was delisted in 2011 after the license expired. I never played it, so I can't speak to its quality, but if you know someone who has access to it, maybe give it a try?
As for me, I've worked up a bit of an appetite, so if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna get something to eat.
Pizza time!
It's whimsical, Leland.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you liked the video, go ahead and click that thumbs up button down there and maybe leave a comment about what you liked. You don't have to, but it'd definitely help this video reach more people if you did. Or if you want to keep up with me outside of YouTube or even suggest a game I cover next, check out the links in the description. Right now I'm looking to do maybe one of these a month, so we'll see what happens. See you next time!